explore, experiment, enable and establish the new working order. This is sparking discovery, where we know that remaining relevant is really a thing. So if you're interested in reimagining how to build an emotional connection between your brand and its stakeholders, as well as remaining relevant, then this is your time. We'll be investigating the new work order and in future episodes interviewing thought leaders across various disciplines, exposing ourselves to new ways of thinking and doing, collecting an arsenal of knowledge in a quest to repurpose our brand and yours with confidence. I'm Linda Hammond, founder of Talk to Us, and I'll be sharing insights on how to get your brand out there this evening. So as I mentioned, grab a cuppa or a drink if you haven't got one already. I've got mine. Cheers everybody, and let's start. So we often get people asking us how to get their brand out there. And recently I attended a webinar hosted by TransUnion and AskAfrica on how SMMEs are coping with the fallout due to the pandemic. Well, I won't cover the entire report because it is a bit bleak, but I will make sure that the links are loaded for you to review the entire reports. There's two, one from AskAfrica and one from TransUnion. But here are some statistics which prompted the content for this evening session. From TransUnion, they were looking at, how SMMEs self-acknowledge their need for assistance with improved cash flows and other areas in their business which they need to improve. And you'll see there that although cash flow was one of them, right up there was they needed to attract new customers. Their base had changed. And close to that was in order to attract new customers, they needed to get a different marketing approach. And I thought it's quite relevant, therefore, to actually share tonight with you just how do you go about doing that? What do you do to get your name out there if you've lost some traction in the market and you don't have the same means to do what you always used to do, which is maybe through events or through conferencing? How do you go about getting your name out there? And that's really some of what we're going to cover tonight. So that was the report from TransUnion on page 15, and really interesting slide. But then if you look at AskAfrica, they also had some opportunity anchors. So they had some bad news and some good news, which I'm not going to go over. But for those who are in our industry, and also for SMMEs, it's the same thing. How do we attract new customers? And how do we change our customer segmentation and our marketing strategies? And then again, another one which was really interesting is new collaboration models between government, business, NGOs, and what those can yield. So those synergies, I think, are really important. At the moment, it's a bit like, all our marbles were held in a bag and the bag's been dropped and everybody's just scattering. So how do we start gathering new partners, creating new collaboration opportunities? And that's some of the things we want to talk to about this evening. So, quite often we go to meet clients and they want a social media strategy because there's a belief that this is free. So let me just cover that. Yes, it is free, but organic searches have gone by the wayside. So it's a bit like winking at a girl in the dark. If you're posting stuff without paying for the posts, or you're not putting in some advertising strategy, I think you're the only one who knows that you're doing it, because they have really buttoned down on making sure that it's really only when you pay that your searches get to where you want them to get. So I'm not saying you have to spend millions, because we all know that that's not available, but you do have to spend some money on it. And they also want a communication strategy with what they call those ad thingies in between the news. And that's interesting because most people are reading their news online at the moment. More than 50% of people now consume news on digital platforms. So a lot of people have realized there's great opportunity in that advertising in amongst the news. And I think people are now asking for that and wanting to understand how to do that. Or they want something awesome to play when you're going to watch a YouTube video. The pre-roll part that annoys the hell out of everybody. Yep, they want that. Okay. So obviously we love this. we really enjoy this because, yes, we can do all of those. We can do a social media strategy for you. We can do a communication strategy for you. We can do pre-roll and inline advertising on magazines, etc., etc. So we can do all of those. The biggest problem that we find is when we say to everybody, okay, so, right, let's get going. Who do you want to speak to and what do you want to say? And all of a sudden, there's this deathly silence in the room. So what I want to suggest, here's a tip. Imagine you're stuck on an island. You have one message you could share with a possible rescue team. What would you say? Who you are, not what you do or where you are, but who you are. I'm a person and I'm stuck on an island. Then followed by where you are, which is probably a bit more vague because you don't know where you are, but in a business environment, you do know where you are. Followed by how long you've been there, how much food you have left, your state of health, and so on. And business is pretty much the same. And then right at the end of your message, of course, you can say, and if you come and find me, you will be handsomely rewarded. No, I'm just joking. So it is really, just consider that this is your message in a bottle. What are you going to say? It has to be as succinct as that. If you can't get that message out so that everybody understands it, then it is not going to fly and nobody's going to come and save you. But understand this as well. The world is big and your message will resonate with someone. It might not be who you targeted or who you thought would be interested, but have faith. You can only stumble on the next best thing when you're moving. If you're standing still, you won't stumble. So put that message in the bottle and put it out there. So now that you know who you are and why it matters and what you can do for others, and those three things are important. Who you are, what you stand for, what your purpose is, why that matters to anybody and society at large, and what you can do for others is in essence your purpose. And if you can actually quantify that in your little note to go in the bottle, you can create a mark which is relevant for its time, that you love, and that captures the essence of who you are and what your purpose is, and then get it out there. So that's branding. The next thing is content is king. Spin doesn't work anymore. So all kinds of adverts about what you're promising, and everybody's a bit suspect about it, and they do understand that concept. If it looks too good to be true, it's probably because it is too good to be true. You really need to now have a look at the content that you're generating and what is that content. So we've got a process whereby you can go through this in order to ensure that you have consistency, because although content is king, consistency is as important. So right at the end of this little piece, I have a video, and it's a Simon Sinek video, and I know the context seems wrong, but just bear with me. It starts with, do you love your wife? And people think, what on earth has that got to do with getting my name out there in business? But there is some relevance. So I'll talk a bit about that now, but let me just show you what I'm talking about. So content marketing is key. So when everybody is zagging, you need to when everybody's zigging, you need to zag. So the first thing is the curation of your content. You need to research and select content which seems relevant for its time, which is aligned to your messaging, which you can take out there, and you can put keywords into and search words into and hashtags into, etc. Then you need to create and write it in a manner that it is attractive to people and interesting. And then you need to move on to the next phase, which is by and by, you then have to take it and skin it so that it starts to look like your information. And I think that's also important, because if it doesn't look like your information, well, then it's not yours and people won't recognize it, So if you look at certain brands, like I think most people recognize Virgin Active's brand, and you'll understand where that V comes from every time you see it. So it needs to look like a family of messages from different messages from the same organization. So when you look at Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, you need to realize where it's coming from. Then you need to make sure that you can publish it. And how do you get that message out there? And there are so many methods to get the message out there. So you need to set up that strategy that when you started the conversation with a organization, you started mentioning the strategy of you wanted a Facebook post, or you wanted an Instagram account, or you wanted a communications program. You only get to that now. So remember, we've understood who you are and what you are. You've curated content that makes sense. You've created something which is awesome writing and speaks to exactly how you want to represent yourself. You've skinned it in your brand so that it looks fantastic. Now you actually only start going out to market and taking it to market and showing it to people, all right, and getting their interaction and seeing how that is working or not working for you. Then you go into a measurement phase where you get analytics and you track the stats to see if you've achieved your goals. So what are your goals? Goals, so often people say to us, okay, we want to post something and then it must go trend and go viral. And they want to do one post. It doesn't work like that. Things go viral and they trend because they are usually emotive or controversial. And often in business, this is not the case. And sometimes if it's misread, it might be the case, but I don't know if that'll do you as much good as if you just put out succinct material and you're not so worried about the trending and the going viral. Just consistently push out messaging and you'll get the response that you're looking for. So the analytics will give you the measurements that you need, and then you can have a look at it and say, well, what do I need to change and how do I need to change it? So you can then say, all right, what I need to do now is I find that maybe Instagram is more my audience, like Instagram more than Facebook. So then post your most important information there, and you'll also find times which suit you. So maybe maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't work, but 7 o'clock does. So I think it's quite important that you understand those things. So the first part of this process is to gather all the information that you need, gather your own thoughts about what you want to put out there and why you want to put out there, what the call to action is, etc. Then prepare the information and skin it so that it looks like your stuff, and then only do you share it. So if you can see, when we started this conversation, it started off with everybody coming to us and wanting to share. But when we spoke to them and said to them, what is it that you want to share, and what do you want it to look like? Because your online skin might not look exactly like your printed skin, because there's different methods that you can use. So I think it's quite important that you just understand these basic principles. And like I've said, it doesn't matter what your message is, you will find somebody who the message will resonate with. So that really is our little session for this evening. If you enjoyed this session, please like it and share it. You can subscribe to our channel, you can follow us, and most importantly, talk to us if you get an opportunity. From me, thanks for taking the time out to be with me. Have a great evening. Remember to catch Matt on Rest the Cape tomorrow at 2:30, 14:30. He's got tips to share with you, so that you can have a great weekend and you can find things to do. And other than that, I'll leave you now with a video, and thanks very much, folks. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Do you love your wife?
Yes.
Prove it. Like, what's the metric? Give me the number that helps me know, right? Because when you met her, you didn't love her. Now you love her, right? Tell me the day the love happened. It's an impossible question. But it's not that it doesn't exist, it's that it's much easier to prove over time, right? Leadership is the same thing. It's about transition. So if you were to go to the gym, it's like exercise, right? If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing, right? So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit. Right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, like in a relationship, I bought her flowers and I wished her happy birthday, and she doesn't love me. Clearly I'll give up. That's not what happens. If you believe there's something there, you commit yourself to an act of service. You commit yourself to the regime, the exercise. You can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day, you can skip a day or two, You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. And the same with the relationship. It's not about the events. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency, right? You go to the dentist twice a year, your teeth will fall out. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. Right? It's the consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate, you're a leader, right? Those things are like going to the dentist. They're very important, they're good for reminding us or getting us back on track, learning new lessons, but it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you went to the fridge to get yourself a drink, you got her one without even asking. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. I can't tell you exactly what day, and it was no particular thing you did. It was the accumulation of all of those little things that she woke up one day and as if she pressed a button, she goes, I love him, right? Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that anyone by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. People will look at little things that are good leadership practices and say, that won't work, and you're absolutely right. But if you do it consistently, and you do it in combination with lots of other little things, like saying good morning to someone, that looking them in the eye. My friend George, who's a 3-star general in the Marine Corps, he says his test for leadership, and I love this, he goes, his test for a good leader is if you ask somebody how their day is going, you actually care about the answer. The number of times we're walking to a meeting, we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good, I gotta get to you later, I'm late for a meeting. Right. If you ask the question, you were standing there and you were listening to the answer. It's those little innocuous things that you do over and over and over and over that people will say, I love my job. Not I like my job. I like my job means, yeah, the challenge is great, they pay me well, I like the people. I love my job means, I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to pay me. I'm devoted to the people here, and I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. In the military, they have brothers and sisters. That's how they think of each other. If you really have a strong corporate culture, the people will think of each other like brothers and sisters. It's like a family, right? No, brothers and sisters. Deep love. Fight, but the love doesn't go away. Bicker, the love doesn't go away. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, you're gonna have to deal with me, right? We'll fight internally, we'll bicker with each other, but nobody's gonna hurt each other, and if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Brothers and sisters. Now, how do you create brothers and sisters out of strangers? Common beliefs, common values, parents, in other words, executives who care about their children's success, who care to raise their children, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself. That's leadership, an absolute love and devotion for the people who've committed their lives to this enterprise. It's a human thing. So just as you know how your body feels after a good workout, and you know how your body feels after a big greasy meal, you know that one is good for you and one is not, despite what it may taste like. And that's the problem with short-term gains, right? They feel really good in the short term. We're highly, highly, highly trained social animals. We're highly adapted social animals. We can feel social awkwardness, and we can feel when things are going well. You can sense it. You say you have this sense of laughter, around the office. Like, we don't walk around with blinders. We're like I said, we're made to do this. That's why we can assess if somebody's trustworthy or not. That's why we keep our walls and we're like, yeah, his results are great, but I wouldn't trust him. you know, as opposed to letting down your, like, I trust her for anything. I trust her with my kids, my money, anything, you know. So we're highly attuned animals, and so we're good at sensing it. But I will say there is a caveat to your metric of laughter, which is a decent one, is that scale breaks things in human beings. As I said before, we're not made for populations bigger than about 150-ish. It's called Dunbar's number. Robin Dunbar, a professor from Cambridge University, theorized that we cannot maintain more than about 150 close relationships. And the way he defined a close relationship is, if you're at a bar with a bunch of friends and somebody comes in, would you ask that person to join you or not? And it's about 150 that we would ask them to come join us. And if you think about the reason, that actually makes perfect sense, which is there's two limiting factors. One is time. If you only gave 2 minutes to every person you know, you'd make no close friends. And the other one is memory. You just can't remember everybody. And so this is where leadership becomes very, very interesting, because if you have a company that has a lot of people, 5, 6, 7, 800 people, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people, clearly you can't know everyone. And clearly as a CEO, like, I care about every single one of my people. You don't even know. Some of the people you work for are who work for you are bastards. You don't care about them, right? So it's a nonsense statement. But what you can say is, I desperately care about the people whose names I know and whose faces I recognize. And I care desperately about my leadership, and I instill in them every day that I will give them the tools, and I will take care of them with one purpose and one purpose only, that they will take care of the people in their charge. And I want those people to take care of the people and instill in them that they take care of the people in their charge. And then by the time you get down to the masses, where the actual 1,000 exist, because of the seniors it's like 20, where the real 1,000 exist, they feel about 150 of them can look to one of their direct leaders, to one of their direct managers, and say, that person cares about me. That's our boss, that's my leader. Not the leader, it's the CEO. That's my manager, my boss, my leader. The one thing I am comfortable saying that all effective leaders must have is courage, because it is hard. It is hard to stand up against outside pressure. It is hard to stand up to an external constituency who's pushing you to do something for their short-term gain, to do the right thing for your people. It is hard. It is thankless. It is lonely. Sometimes you get fired. Sometimes you get in trouble. Sometimes you'll lose your job and the next guy will get all the credit. It's all true. And the courage to do the right thing in the face of overwhelming pressure, only the best leaders have that courage. Only the best leaders. And here's the folly. Courage is not some deep internal fortitude. You don't dig down deep and find the courage, right? It just doesn't exist. Courage is external. Our courage comes from the support we feel from others. In other words, when you feel that someone has your back, when you know that the day that you admit you can't do it, someone will be there and say, I got you. You can do this. That's what gives you the courage to do the difficult thing. It's not going off to an ashram by yourself somewhere for 4 weeks and coming back and finding the courage. It's not what happens. It's the relationships that we foster. It's the people around us who love us and care about us and believe in us. And when we have those relationships, we will find the courage to do the right thing. And when you act with courage, that in turn will inspire those in your organization to also act with courage. In other words, it's still an external thing. That's what inspiration is, right? I'm inspired to follow your example. But those relationships that we foster over the course of a lifetime will not only make us into the leaders we need to be and hope we can be, but they'll often save your life. They'll save you from depression, they'll save you from giving up, they'll save you from any matter of negative feelings about your own capabilities, your own future. When someone just says, I love you.